Everyone. Nice to see everybody.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, the 13th.
Spooky.
Awesome. I'm gonna start sharing my screen over here while we wait for people. We will get started in just a bit, but this week we're talking more about our work streams and a little bit about Alvanon, or not Alvanon, well, a little bit about Alvanon, but also about avatars, another A word. So actually it's mostly going to be about avatars, to be honest. But yeah, we're excited to be here. I am just going to start to dig in and give you guys a quick reminder of who we are. There are 5 of us on this call, Jasmine, Monica, Trudy, Colleen, and did I say Monica already? And then myself. And then we are all experts in different ways. So Colleen and I are more experts with tons of industry experience, but are both kind of new to Clo, and the others are a little bit more experienced in the Clo world and or are newer to the industry. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic that we've found here, and I am really excited because we're going to talk a little bit more about how we have been, using Clo as a tool to blur the lines between the old methods and the new. So this week, the format is going to be a little bit different than what we had put into the website landing page. You guys had a lot of questions last week about avatars, and so we're diving deeper into that stream this week. So from here on out, it's going to be talking about customizing avatars and poses. There was a few questions about that. We're going to be talking about realistic bodies and body scanning. Then we're going to dig into grade checks and cross-checking on custom avatars, as well as dress forms and avatar licensing options. And then we're going to have a little discussion at the end about fit models and body scans and how those kind of coalesce together. The other thing I would say is that, there's going to be a couple of questions from last week that we're going to touch on throughout. So hopefully we can give you a more detailed answer on things that we weren't able to get to last week. And, starting the conversation, I think the biggest thing that we've noticed about working in Clo as a team is just, it's really hard to trust this program. We come from a world where everything is designed in a physical garment. And so it's become hard to trust what you see in Clo because you're so used to seeing something immediately, or not immediately, but in a sample form. And so it's really tricky because, Clo is a 3D world. We work in the real world, and trusting it is just a challenge from the beginning. So it's a little bit of a process, and I think that is a good place to start us off. So I am going to move on and let Monica share her screen, and we can dig into the process of creating avatars and editing them and making them have different poses for intimate apparel.
Cool. Hey guys. So I'm just going to go ahead and open an avatar and then just show you guys how you can basically manipulate the form to the specs that you want. So we have a few different models that we use. We've made custom avatars in Clo to work off of those models. I am our size small model. So we have a form that we use that's identical to my body that we use to cross-check all fit before we receive our samples. So you can go ahead and open up your form, your avatar, and then go to avatar editor. And in the avatar editor, you can make lots of adjustments in here. You can go to advanced options, and you can go in and adjust, every single manipulation of the body So some of the frustrations with this, though, is that if you want to do certain manipulations, they will counteract in different areas. So if we wanted to say we wanted to change the underbust to let's say 30, that will counteract some other measurements to contain a proportionate body. But you can go in and make some other adjustments accordingly. And yeah, so you can also go in and like start off with like what type of body shape you want and then make those manipulations as well accordingly. In the intimates world, though, we do have a bit of problems because unlike a lot of ready to wear, we need to have super precise measurements, especially when it comes to like the bust and a lot of like the hip shape measurements. And unfortunately, within the options that Clo3d gives us, we're kind of tied to the options we're given. And we'll get more into that later.
I think one thing to call out is often though that they change the measurements automatically based on what you put in for some of the like top tier measurements. If she changed her underbust circumference, it'll kind of change everything a little bit to suit that. And you can still make overrides and change it that way, but it is an interesting like linking that they have right now.
Yeah, that's more so when you start with the total body measurements, and then it'll kind of work from there. But when you get into some of these specific measurements, when you're working with like the overall frame around the bust, it can get pretty wonky pretty quick. So
yeah, Monica, just for example, I'll just give you my measurement. So if you put in 31 in her underbust,
mm-hmm.
and then 40 for her bust circumference measurement.
40.
Like these are my measurements, and mm-hmm. when you enter that, we'll see like what Clo3d does. So my lats and back don't really look like this, girls. And that's just an example of like where Clo3d falls short a little bit in terms of Clo3d's trying to keep it proportional, and it's like I don't understand these proportions, and mm-hmm. it just spits out like what it thinks.
Yeah, it starts, you have to really like dial in every single measurement. So this is a way that we've gone through and made our custom avatars, but it does take quite a bit of time and a lot of patience and like a fine-tuned eye to ensure that you're getting all of these measurements completely dialed in, because things can get pretty strange pretty quick if not.
Yeah, there's a lot of deformation that happens when you try to give her a full bust. Right now, she looks a little bit like a linebacker. She doesn't have the tissue. It's not adding to her front really. It's adding all over. Oh, Monica, could you go back and show us the avatar editor again? Because we wanted to play around with the apex position, because it also, there's some things that you can do, but it's not perfect. It's not a perfect system. And another thing we've noticed is that it is like symmetrical. So everything that you do in Clo3d to make edits to the body, it's always symmetrical. So I know somebody asked something last week that we're going to touch on in a bit about symmetry, and Clo3d is not the place to go to make something asymmetrical in the body anyway. But yeah, could you put Trudy's measurements in again? The full bust. Oh, I think you're in a different.
I like to start with the underbust circumference and then work from there. I found that makes it a little bit easier than starting with the bust. Underbust.
There, actually, a good thing that I'll just point out is that those boxes in the top, the total body boxes, you have to change those first, and then you can go down and modify everything else. If you start modifying everything else below and then decide you want to change one of those top measurements, it resets everything. So you gotta have those dialed in first, and then you can go in and modify, refine.
Yeah, that's some of the linking I was talking about earlier, that the top is linked to the bottom, but you have to adjust the top first.
We got a question in the chat. Are you able to lock in specific measurements like bust, waist, hip? You are.
Yes. Yes. Once we save it, we can actually save the avatar as its own avatar, like a new unique avatar, and then she'll always have those proportions.
But I think maybe the question was like lock it in, because I know you guys are saying once you change one thing, it tries to automatically adjust other things. Is it's like a constraint? Is there a way to lock it so that it doesn't do that while you're editing?
I think it's only when you update the top portion that Trudy was talking about that it will affect the others cascading. So you have to start.
This is what we were talking about. So like the top measurement will affect all the other ones, and all the ones below will affect your other measurements as well. So like, let's say let's throw in a 30-inch waist in there, Monica. And then let's give her something like her high hip. Let's put like something 40 in there, just something crazy. And let's see if it changes her waist. So it does.
It sets your measurement
here. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, 30 is locked in there now.
Mm-hmm.
Except you don't get a proportional avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a little strange. One of the things we were also looking at is you can do some manipulations on the apex to apex measurement, and that's kind of related to Danielle's question too. Are you able to adjust the crosscut measurement? So that is probably what you're talking about, the apex to apex. And so when we make changes to that, you do see a little bit of the shape change from her like really wide back to something a little bit more palatable. And then the other area you can kind of adjust as well is the high point shoulder to apex, and that will also give you a little bit more like fuller in the front as opposed to fuller all over. The problem here is sort of that they're not accounting for gravity and weight in this simulation. So her breasts are generally sitting very high compared to like what they would be in a real human, because our tissue is, once you have gravity in there, there's different shapes happen. But it doesn't really simulate weight or gravity. So she's still very like high up. Her back is not as broad, but if you go too much more in any extreme from high point shoulder to apex, and you start to change that longer from here, it starts to deform her head and face a little bit, which is not super fun. Oh, it's actually not as bad. It did something very strange the other day where it like gave her a squishy face.
Yes.
But yeah, you could see it's not quite right when you make too many adjustments. So there's certain limitations that it definitely has there.
Yeah, the further that you get away from standard proportions, the more difficult the Clo forms have to simulate what you're looking for.
I think another one measurement that would be super ideal for us though is having the apex to underbust measurement through here, which is the one that's really throwing us all off.
Definitely.
Any more questions about measuring our avatars or manipulating the Clo standard avatars?
Specifically, avatars.
I did see one, and it said, since you are working with intimates, do you disregard overall height? We don't. We actually consider it quite a bit because we work on bodysuits, and your torso length matters in that realm. So we do like account for the full body torso length as well as the height. It doesn't have a big impact on the like bottom half, I would say, but if you're working on a bodysuit, it does have somewhat of an impact there.
I have a question. When you guys are working with the new soft bodies, are you finding anything helpful to that? Or does it still lack having that weight? Like, how do you guys feel working with the soft body avatars?
Trudy, I'm going to let you answer that one.
Yeah, soft bodies are a new feature. They just came out in the last update with Clo. So it's cool. It's cool to see it because before there was none. It was a hard body. It was like fitting on a mannequin. Now you can put your garment on there and you can turn on soft body and you can see that the garment will deform in like kind of a natural way. Like it will deform the breast and you can see how much pressure. You can get an idea of how much pressure is happening from your garment onto the body. At least you're getting a bit of deformation. The problem is that it's just soft all over. The whole entire avatar is soft. So she doesn't have like bones in her shoulders and the straps just want to go right through her body. She's just like a big marshmallow. So you got to take it with a big grain of salt. Like it's cool. And I love that Clo is going in that direction. And it's nice. Like you simulate for a second, you see what deformation happens from the garment that you're working with. And then you stop simulating and you can make some assessments from there, but I feel like they have a way to go.
Yeah, we don't really use it that often. I feel like we do it for like fun every so often, and then we go right
just to see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
like
it goes back to the trust issue.
Yeah.
We don't trust it yet. It's not right. It makes it hard
Yeah.
for us to want to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we know in intimates you really need to feel that squish and combination of structure. So interesting. Hopefully they'll get some weight in there and some structure, some bones.
Yeah,
I think that's the kind of thing. The more we use it, the more technical designers are using, the more we ask for those kinds of features. I think those are the things Clo will develop. Like I think a lot of young people are using Clo and they like using it to make clothes for gaming and they're not necessarily asking for those kinds of features. So I think having conversations like this is important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. You know, the course I took in Clo, the instructors were amazing and they were very responsive to like feedback and very open and ready to like pass that forward. So it's a great team from my experience over at Clo.
Yeah, I agree, Colleen. I've had really good experiences talking to Clo, and I'll just plug their Discord channel right now. It's a really good resource to go and ask questions. A lot of people, or there's a few people from Clo that work at Clo and participate in the Discord channel.
So.
There was a question about whether they have plus size avatars or if it's limited to standard sizing. Monica, I was hoping you could maybe just show us the sizes that they offer right now.
Sure. So within the avatars, you can go to size and they have a bunch of standardized sizes in here, starting from European standards and US standards, and everything from like curvy to straight, maternity. And then within each one of these, they do have pretty extensive sizes within here. But the only thing we noticed about some of these is that they're still kind of like stuck within this like strange proportionate world of making like adjusting those avatars, the Clo avatars, where we can't dial in. For us, it's intimates. We can't dial in like the cup size.
And also, can you pull up the size 20 avatar? You start getting more deformed. Like the more, see, like her arms aren't right here, and her head is still the same size. Yeah, like they don't quite have it right. It's a starting point if you need something, but yeah.
Could you pop into the plus curvy one too and just show us the biggest size there? I think that would be helpful too for this question. So we have a 24W as the tallest or the like largest size there. And again, you see her she doesn't have a lot of body fat here where a lot of people do.
This is fine. I think if you're working with like ready to wear and you're trying to cross check your grading, for instance, but when it comes to like intimates, it's very tricky.
I think another thing that's tricky about it is generally the more tissue and weight you have, the more different your body distributes it. Like if you're small, you might have really wide hips and, you know, a juicy boot bottom versus like you might have a bigger belly, or, you know, your arms might be a little bit more dense there. So like, I think the more weight you have, the differently it's distributed across your body generally. So it's hard to like play that average necessarily with what they have in Clo. All right. let's move on to showing some of the edits we can make to the avatars through the property editor.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to change the texture of your avatar. If you're trying to just make it so you don't see the avatar skin, for instance, you can just go right in here and you can, select, like, view it as a white body, and then you can go in to the property editor and make any changes in here of what colors you want to change it to, if that's something you want to do for like merchandising. And then seeing this in the mesh is also really great if you need to check. We use this to check like side seam placements. We use this to check where your crotch gusset's sitting on body, because you can see the garment and you can really visualize exactly where certain pieces are hitting. But most of the time we stay within the textured body because we like to see like where apex placement is, where like, yeah, the belly button is, and where a garment is sitting on body. So to change
Usually
that,
we make her naked.
yeah, so just
that
gonna
we
get
can
to that.
see the image.
So
Sorry.
if you go into the textures here and go into whichever model you have chosen, you can go in and change the main trunk texture. So right now she has like nude undergarments on, and you can go in and you can change this to black just by selecting this image and dragging it over to dragging it over here and just dropping it onto that texture. You can also do nude, which is what we do. It's a long way to stretch, which is what we typically do. So we can evaluate nipple placements and you can see exactly where garments are going to be hitting on the body.
Another thing, I just want to jump backwards a minute. When you were making the changes to the all white avatar, you just need to select all, and then you can change the color in the right hand color property at the end, and it'll change the whole body to be one color as opposed to like just selecting the torso and changing the torso to one color.
So where is that?
Like if you're in the 3D window and you just hit like, I think it's Command A or so, like select all. I can't remember the shortcut.
Select the avatar and then right click and then select all faces.
Yeah, select all faces.
Cool. I didn't know that actually. I would just go in and do it one by one.
One by one.
Oh.
Go in and make any changes you want. And you can also change from matte to like a shiny finish if you wanted to do something like that. If you need to do like merchandising for I don't know, holiday sets or something. Yeah.
You can actually also use that select all trick in the property window for materials too, and change the materials all in one go, so you don't have to do it manually. Just FYI too.
Oh, cool.
Another cool place to use that. All right. I think
another thing really quick is that all of these textures for every model are actually saved onto your computer when you download Clo. So you can copy the path and then like paste that as a text and figure out exactly where it's kind of hidden in your computer, whether you have a PC or a Mac. And you can take this image and you can put it in Photoshop and you can make changes to this. So you can give her jewelry or tattoos, or you can change the texture of her color or the hue of her skin tone to whatever you want. If you want to make her like a specific skin tone, or if you wanted to make her like an avatar blue, or if you want to what we've been talking about is like
give her tattoos.
Yeah, give her tattoos, differentiating, so we can quickly see what models are fit models compared to our Clo avatar. So for instance, if we're using my avatar and I have tattoos, like replicating just quickly onto the body where my tattoos are. So once we see that avatar, we immediately know, oh, that's our size small body, for instance. So and people do go in, especially people in like the gaming world will go in and make changes to the faces, adding makeup and all that.
Yeah, it's a fun way to
Once you get
personalize your
over the,
avatar.
once you get over the creepiness of looking at that deep-skinned, weird body
Save,
thing.
save everyone from seeing that, because once you see the skin laid out on Photoshop,
Creepy.
you can't unsee it. Yeah.
It's appropriate. It's like an appropriate conversation to have on Friday the 13th. We should all go watch some Leatherface movies or something.
Laid body.
Yeah. Nope. Not dark. All right. So at this point we kind of want to touch on some of the conversations or questions we had from last week. And there was two that were kind of around the same thing. And the first one was, did you create this custom pose for intimates with the leg spread, or is it a standard pose that comes in the Clo avatar? We actually did make it. And then the other question was, can you show us how to manipulate the avatar skeleton to get the best pose for a brief? So we're going to show you that right now. She's wearing heels, so you can remove her heels if you want.
Selecting both and then delete accessory.
Yep. And now she's
And you
flat.
can also go back into the avatar and go to shoes and add any shoes that you have or you've downloaded or you've created in a different program through there. So to change her pose, you're going to hit Shift X, which actually, yeah, so it's under avatar display, and then is
The
it
green
show?
one.
It's the green one?
Yeah.
Okay. I do everything with hotkeys, so once it comes to clicking on things, I never know. So Shift X, and you can go in and actually manipulate the avatar to whatever position you want. So you can click each joint and manipulate accordingly.
If you click the little gingerbread man on the side of the gizmo, it also does it symmetrically. So it'll make the change to both. Although she's not symmetrical already, so you kind of have to start from a symmetrical position to make that work symmetrically from the get-go.
So gingerbread man, select, and then you can accordingly make any changes you want. And from there, you can make like any stylized pose that you want. And I think this is also, someone had a question about scoliosis. I think this is also a way if you wanted to make your avatar for some reason, you know, have like a specific body. That's one way to, you know, manipulate.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
I didn't either. That's a great tip. It's not perfect, obviously. Like it's something you're gonna eyeball a little bit, but it works in a pinch for sure.
Yeah.
Want to show them how you do the leg joints just to give them the A-frame pose?
Sure. So you can go in and select the hips and then select your gingerbread man, and then you can no. And then what we do is we spread them a little bit just so we can get the gusset width in a little bit better. Yeah.
And that you do by you can rotate the joints, but then that little yellow square that Monica is clicking is what you use to push out the leg form.
And we do this such a small amount. We do this like it, so it doesn't really affect the like low hip measurement, but it just gives us like a small bit of space in the crotch, so we can see how panties fit a little bit better. Because as we all know, fitting panties on a form
really hard.
Very hard, yeah.
But it's also like an advantage, like fitting on a form or fitting in Clo, because you can get really up close and personal in those areas, right? Like whereas like on a real body, it's a little bit harder.
I mean, you have really good relationships with your fit models. I'm pretty tight with a lot of models in the industry. You have to be.
For sure.
So
There's
Monica,
also
Oh, sorry,
go
I just
ahead.
wanted to ask Monica a question about what she was just doing. So Monica, that was actually like, from the angle I was having a little trouble telling, was that you're actually kind of moving the hip bone outward, what you were just doing?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
We can also remove limbs, specifically the arms, so that we can see armholes better just by selecting and I think deleting, right? Deactivating. Sorry.
It's one of these. I always click
I
the
think-
wrong one, but I think
I think it's the
deactivate.
I think it's the lower one that makes it go away. Yeah.
That way we can see side seams really well, especially if we have like a top and a bottom that we need to align, or just generally seeing the fit of side seams. I think that's the only reason that we remove the arms, is
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
a little imbalanced if you're working on a garment without arms.
It's a little strange to look at too.
Or armholes.
Especially with the hole through her.
Yeah.
But you can also go into the pose, and then I have a lot of poses in here, but
Not standard.
not standard now. But there are like different automatic poses for having your arms straight out to the side or straight down, depending on what you need. We typically have them out to the side because we're trying to work through armhole shapes.
So are those from Clo3d, Monica?
Some of them are, some of them I've done myself, but I think
And,
most of them are from.
Yeah, so once you have a pose that you like, I don't know if you showed us already, but like if we like that fitting pose, we can save that out as a pose. And then these files that are on the left-hand side now that Monica's adding to the avatar, you can add any new pose to any avatar. Or not any pose to any avatar. It has to be applied to the avatar that it was made for in the first place.
So you can, go in and make any like changes to the avatar and then save it out.
Can you just give them a quick
There's a question.
show?
From Hillary, once you design in the adjusted A pose, do you have to totally refit each time you change the pose? What do you do about crotch width in different poses? So I can answer that one if you want, Hillary. So once you fit in the A pose and the garment fits on that and you apply a new pose, you can simulate the garment to transition between that original pose and the new pose so that the whole garment will shift with it.
We typically fit with the A pose, and we found that it's like good for actually like transitioning to just about any pose. I mean, on a human, they're not like soft like we are, you know, so a crotch gusset is going to sit differently on a human body because of the nature of it, but it generally pretty much works every time when you apply it, when you work on it in the A-frame pose, and then you apply it to other poses. It will have a little bit of bunching though at the crotch, just like it would on a dress form, if it's like super close.
I have a question about, I'm curious, I haven't tried this yet in Clo, like if you do something that on a real person, it would like lift their bust or move something, like if her arms went above her head, that lifts my bust up. Does her bust lift in Clo, or does it pretty much just stay?
I think it stays where it is.
Okay.
So you can't do the trick of trying to do this to show a bra that's not really lifting you up.
Yeah. To see if the underbust is anchoring. Yeah, no, it's not possible.
Maybe one day Clo will listen to us though, if they hear this. All right. Did we cover everything for Monica's section? Are we gonna move on? Did we show everybody how to save the A-frame actually? I don't know if we showed them.
So if you wanted to like export a custom pose, for instance, let's just make something, some type of custom pose, whether it is making your own A-frame or, you want to have something you're designing for a customer. Then you can go to file and save as pose. And then from there, it'll go in and automatically show you where you can export that. So you can save it as,
I could
custom
definitely see the
pose.
pose. Sorry. I could definitely see the pose that you put her in right now being like a good way to show off like a robe sleeve or something like that has
Yeah.
more drape.
Exactly. That's a really good, yeah. If we were doing something that had, like a specific tiered sleeve, and you wanted to see how it falls when the arm is out versus where it's down, especially if you're looking, for marketing reasons or something.
For sure.
I'm really messing with her body now. But yeah, it's
That
super
is
to just make any pose you
cool.
want and then just save it as, and then that will populate here in your side, and you can just open it up accordingly. So,
All right, cool.
cool.
Let's move on to Trudy. Trudy is going to talk a little bit more about the, creating more realistic and imperfect bodies for fit models, or using your own fit scan for your own body dupe.
Okay.
While she's getting it up, I think it was it a year ago that you got your body scan? 2 years ago?
Yeah, almost exactly a year ago. Okay.
So
I got a body scan done. It was at, I always forget the name of this, but it was by like a company that does scanning for like 3D printing. Like, so if you wanted to get something 3D printed, you get a scan of it done. So it was a bit ad hoc for me to walk in there and ask for a 3D body scan. He said it's not the weirdest thing he's ever had to scan. So that's why I like have on these like boots in my body scan. And I was traveling to Montreal and I had like the wrong bra. This is not the bra I wanted to get scanned in, but I ended up getting stuck with what I got. And so this is what my body scan comes out as originally. It comes out as, when I received it, it was an STL file, which you can't bring into Clo. So I had to open it in Blender, save it out as an OBJ, make sure the scale was correct, and then I could bring it into Clo. So that's the raw body scan that I ended up with. You can see like the mesh is colliding here around the leg, so I can't really use it for like fitting a panty. But what it is useful to me for is I could get the measurements off of her. So I brought it in here and I could get all my measurements off of her. And this is super useful when you're drafting a garment. So that's my body scan. And then I wanted to make this more of like an avatar. So I used, I tried different things. I used Blender first, but Blender's not user friendly. I don't know if we have any Blender users in the audience, but it takes quite a while to like get yourself really up to speed with Blender. So I just recently found another site called Mesh Mixer, and I was able to bring her in and smooth her out. So I ended up with a form that looks more like this. So that's the form. This is an OBJ, this guy here. And in Clo, you are able to take this OBJ and convert it to an avatar that works in Clo. I mean, I could save this out as an avatar, like I could work on this as an avatar, but to get a little bit more functionality of it, I tested out the avatar the auto convert to avatar, this guy here. I'm not gonna open it right now because it takes a while for Clo to like work it out.
You could open that, just don't have it run. I think it doesn't take very long to open it.
All right, I'll show you here.
Because then you can see the rigging.
And then I'm gonna bring in my scan here.
Rigging is when you have the bones in it. So what we were just doing with the poses.
So that's my OBJ. I put it in here under the 3D file, and then you have to select what you want for gender. So we're gonna put female. And then we're just going to leave converting option to automatic. And then converted output, you select what type of output you want from the file. So you have 3 options here. You can get Clo with skin, and you can pick which type of Clo skin you want behind there. So you'll see this change. And then your output, you will get a rigged file, but you won't get the size editor. So if you select that one, and then if you select rigging only, you will get rigging, but you won't get the size editor, and it should be the same file. And if you select size editable, you'll get rigging and a size editor, but this actually will end up deforming your body scan. But you will be able to then go into the avatar editor that Monica was showing us earlier and edit the measurements through there. So I'm not going to run it because it takes a few
Takes a hot
minutes.
minute.
Yeah, like on my computer, it's pretty fast and it still takes like 5 minutes. On my old Mac, it was like 20 minutes. I have to just let it sit there and run.
It froze on me last time I tried, so
Yeah.
it didn't work. My file didn't like. Another quick reminder I just want to mention is that Riley just shared the body scanner fabrication lab that Clo3d got her body scan done. It's actually a fabrication lab, meaning they work in like 3D prototyping and 3D printing. Those are available all over the world. So you could probably find a fabrication lab near you that you could get body scanning done. It's not like a typical service that they would offer, but a fabrication lab workshop like that would also be suitable to get a body scan locally.
Yeah, and other places I've heard people have gotten body scans, like universities, research facilities have body scanners. And we talked yesterday about phone scanners that are popping up all over the place now. We found some links that will definitely drop in, and you guys can let us know if you play around with them, if you have any success with them. Okay, so these are the 3 avatars that Clo pops out in the end, based on like the previous screen that I just showed you. So this is the one with the skin. She's a little bit, you know, crazy looking because like I have this mask on my face and it's trying to figure out like what's happening with these boobs. So that's the body that with skin. This is my avatar, and if I look, these are all rigged because I think I was playing around with rigging, but they all end up rigged for me in this. So, whoops.
How much did you pay for your scan, by the way?
About $200.
Okay, so you gotta really want it on some level.
So that's like for rigging. I can deform her, and then this is the one that's editable. So if I go to avatar editor and I select that one, which is number 2, you can see that like all of these lines, like Monica was showing us earlier, are editable. So like if we want to change her waist here and we put like 85, this is just warning us that it's going to change it, and we say okay, and you can see that it's adjusted her waist now to 85. So that's the avatar editor. This is a Clo3d avatar that I tried to make based on like the body measurements that I got off this avatar over here, and that's what she ends up looking like. Her bust is still not exactly like my bust, which is like whatever. It's something like if I'm not making intimate apparel, like I can work with her, but this is what I ended up working with. My avatar, she's smooth. She has reasonably close to my measurements, pretty accurate actually. She doesn't have gravity, so I gotta live with that. But this is just a bra that I drafted. It was based on this. This is a bra that I made up here. That's all archived up here, and this one fits me well. And so this is just something I've been playing with as a draft for it. And I mean, she looks pretty reasonable. Like it's something I could work with to create a draft and get an idea of what a new style would look like in Clo, and somewhat to a certain degree how it fits. It's definitely a good start, and I would way rather start here than trying to draft on paper, sew it up, try it on, and then get an idea of what it looks like.
Totally.
So that's all I have to say about body scans. Is there questions? Did any questions pop up about that?
I'm just gonna pop some links into the chat right now. These are different kinds of body scanning. So there's a few body scanning apps on your phone that you can get, but then there's also like platform or like box scanners that are like stabilized in one place. And there's 2 different locations. One's Fit3D and one's StickU. And they both have a lot of locations, actually, not 2 different locations. They're websites for locations though. And you can find, they're usually at gyms. So a gym will do it, and these files can be exported to OBJ files. I double checked. They might not know how to do it at the place because they might not do that often. So you might have to get them a little bit more of guidance throughout the process, but they can do it. So just so you know.
Yeah, and so I mean, take your notes from me. You can take your boots off. If they're like a body scanning app, hopefully you can do it in, you know, as little clothes as possible so you get the right shape. Wear the right bra that you want like the shape of in the end. And Jennifer asked if she's soft body, and no, she's not. You can't make these ones soft body. She might be able to turn to soft body, the one that, yeah, because she's a Clo avatar. I'm not sure. I don't think that you can make them soft body, you know.
So yeah, barefoot, less clothing is better, or light, thin clothing that is body skimming, form fitting. Try to not wear a mask and your face won't deform and stuff. And also don't wear like jewelry, chunky jewelry, things that will show up in the scan, because that'll also give you issues on importing.
Okay, I'm gonna move along because we have a few more things to cover. We were gonna talk about DAS and measuremetrics, and that's measuremetrics is the tool that we use in DAS to change the bodies. We can drop links in for those, and people can look them up and bring us questions if they have next week. Oh, did we want to get into the Monica did a really cool experiment with this week. We had a question about creating men's underwear, and it's flat. Our Clo avatars are flat on the front. So
like a Kendall.
Monica came up with a pretty cool workaround for this, which is something that we were like, yeah, this is exactly what we need. People like just experimenting in Clo and trying to find different workarounds for the problems that we encounter.
Monica, you don't have to share your screen, because well, if you want to share your screen, you can.
I don't know if I want to share my screen, to be honest. But I can say that,
talk about it, Monica.
If you do research on how to create shoulder pads, essentially in Clo, you can make something similar to a shoulder pad and use that as like a trunk placement. And you can basically solidify that, use that as a trim, import it as an OBJ, as an avatar, and you can use that as like a bulge for men's underwear.
It has some limits, though. I think it depends on like what your goal is and why you're adding it. It sounded like the person that asked the question was looking for it for like fitting reasons, and so like you can use it for fitting reasons. You probably won't be able to get them to animate properly if you try to use animation on that technique, but it is a workaround that we found. And a lot of the times there are like different workarounds for things in Clo that we've experienced. It's just a matter of like, what are the things you're using it for, and why, like, what are your non-negotiables? Like if you need it for animation, you might need to use DAS instead. But if you need it for fitting, you know, that shoulder pad method might be just quite all right. And now I think it's me and Jasmine's time to shine. Ready to share?
So someone asked if we still check garments in real life after we've added them into Clo. So this is just an example of us doing grade checks. This is the real life model. And then what we saw in Clo first, we used the Albanon forms, which I think someone asked about. You rent these, correct?
Yeah.
For a monthly fee?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
They actually have a free trial right now. So if you go to Albanon and find your way to the digital avatars, you can get a free trial.
For 6 months, right? A 6-month free trial?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mine's
Albanon.
So we did that Albanon form in Clo, and then we went to the Albanon studio and saw them on the physical Albanon form.
And there's no charge for the going to the studio also, which is another really awesome part of Albanon. Double check.
Yeah. So you can see from Clo to the Albanon form, we kind of see like the same issues. We have the drag lines on the bust here. And then we also saw that in real life, the panty also looked very good. In Clo, it looked good. And then in physical, it looked really good too. But then we wanted to talk about how much you can trust Clo versus real life, because in real life we have gravity, So here we can no longer see the drag lines. And then we also did not see this little piece collapsing in Clo because they don't have tissue up here.
And we're basing this off of like our Alvenon bust, waist, and hip measurement, right? Like here was our Alvenon standard form that fit into our size chart, and then here was a real woman's body that fit into our size chart. And like we were talking about earlier, human bodies are not the same as avatars. So
Yeah, there's definitely some, like, you have to think about it differently. It's not an alternative to fitting on real models and real people. You have to still check it. You still have to make sure that you feel good about it on a human, because ultimately that's who's going to be wearing it, not mannequins. But it will make you feel more confident about cutting your grading and like going into the grade checks, because we had this great way of like, okay, like I see problems, but I can't fix all of the problems in Clo right now. So I have to see what they actually end up translating to in real life. So as you all know, fitting is really a process of averages. It's really more about creating a fit that works for the maximum number of bodies, and it's not about fitting it perfect to just one person. So while it's not perfect on our fit model or our Alvenon dress forms, it is really close to being, commercially acceptable. It's not wildly off. It's not going to make women feel like, wow, this fits me like trash. Like all of the models that we tried it on really enjoyed it, just as a extra note. So I think it's a really nice supplementary tool to use with grade checks for sure. And I think we could have Trudy show the DAS grade checks through Clo, because we talked a little bit about DAS. We've built some extra fit models for ourselves. They have a little bit more of a gravity component to their tissue on some level. They don't have gravity, but they look a little bit more like women who have gravity in their boobs.
yeah, so this is just the Clo3d Genesis 8 avatar, which we use with measure metrics to modify the shapes to fit into our size chart. And these are the bodies that we ended up with. And this is the garment we were just looking at a second ago, graded out.
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh,
right
no.
now.
What are you're not seeing anything?
We see your old avatar.
Okay.
The one you were wearing before.
Is that working?
Yeah, that's working. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, so DAS avatars, and then we change their forms to fit our size chart with the measure metrics tool, and then we brought them into Clo. And then so you can bring your pattern into Clo, you sew it up one time on your standard size medium, and then you go over here into your grading tool, and then you can look at all the grading. So these are all the sizes that we have for this garment, from extra small to 6X. And then you compare your avatars. So my extra small avatar is paired to my extra small pattern piece, et cetera, all the way down to my 6X avatar is paired to my 6X pattern piece. And so now, before we get this cut, before we go and have it, go and do any fittings with it, we can bring it into Clo, test it out, and see, like, are we seeing any major issues that we feel like needs to be changed right now? And then you can also look at the grading in Clo. So we can look at like the grading of this neckline and see what's happening right here. And you can see it's grading up by 1/4 centimeter and out by 1.12 centimeters. You can also add a point of measure to that line. And then there's a point of measure tool over here when Clo figures it out.
Leisha, we have grade rules that we've attached to our tech packs, and the question was, did you grade this pattern in Clo, or did we bring the DXF already graded? I believe we asked our factory to grade it based on our tech packs, and then we made some minor adjustments.
Yeah, so that's a good point. You can bring in a graded DXF pattern from another factory, or you can do your grading in Clo as well. Hold
on, before you go on, a major important factor of this, they must have the DXF file and the .rule file, they must have the same exact name, or else it will not work.
It won't work.
Just remember.
And so this is where you can see your point of measure. So I can see that line is grading by, here's the size medium. The size medium is 23.72. the size large would be 25.14. I've asked Chloe if we can like change this to looking at like the difference between these numbers, so you don't have to do the math in your head, but that's where we're at with that right now. You can export this as a an Excel file and save it out, and then have a look at your grade rules that way as well. And if you can also modify the grading in Clo as well. So let's say we want to modify, I don't know, let's say we wanted to modify that point right there. You would look at your, oh, it doesn't let me change that. You go grab your grading tool, grab that point, and then you can either enter a new value in here to change the number, or you can just select your cursor and change it that way. So it's pretty cool.
Sounds good. I think we should move on to the renting, talk a little bit about renting avatars and what that's like. I know we've touched on
Yeah,
it, but...
we actually have Rhonda Coates in the audience today.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Rhonda, but she works at Albanon, and I don't know. Do you wanna unmute yourself, Rhonda, and speak up?
Sure. This is really informative. I'm learning a lot. For those who are interested in avatars, you can actually reach out to me directly, and I can give you a 30-day trial for any of our avatars. We do have specific intimate apparel avatars, which are specifically created to address those sections on the body which are hard to fit either in the avatars that are in, other softwares, or to match the physical body. So if you're interested in intimate form, we actually have a women's intimate form. It's available in, I think, 4 cup sizes. And we're working on a men's intimate form. So that bulge that they were talking about creating, we're creating that right now. We're actually testing it with a few of our brand partners in the industry to see what they think about it. So hopefully that will be released beginning of next year. And the beautiful thing about our avatars, of course, is they come in complete size sets. So we're talking 00 all the way up to a women's 32. So they're really good for that. But thanks.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We've also heard that Figure Forms also does avatar rentals, digital avatar rentals as well. And I think it's around $500 each.
Those are for purchase.
I think it's
for purchase.
Oh, sorry. Yes, for purchase, $500 for like a lifetime purchase. I'm just going to share my screen again. We're going to kind of transition into a little bit more of a chat discussion. We also wanted to touch on fit models and body scans, and Colleen did a little bit of research on that, and we can chat there and then end.
Sure. Yeah, so just wanted to let everyone know, we know in the industry that our fit models are so important and we value them a lot. We also know that if we're working in Clo3d, it's great if we can have an avatar that's as close to them as possible. So the fit model industry and the Clo3d pattern making, they kind of haven't like met each other yet, and I'm sure there's a little friction there because obviously that's the fit model's livelihood. They're coming in for fittings and things like that. So I spoke to model agents, I spoke to fit models themselves. I also spoke to some other technical design directors just to see what everybody's doing in the industry. So right now, one thing I was really curious about are fit models, like, do they have body scans? Can you buy their body scans? Can you license their body scans? Things like that. From the agency, in general, most models do not have that. There is one model that does have, like, his top client wanted to scan him, make an avatar, and so they basically pay him like royalties and like kind of like a yearly amount, and then there's a contract and they can't share his body. So that's one scenario. Most of the models do not have theirs scanned. I do have another model I spoke with. She years ago had her body was scanned twice by a big client to make physical forms of her, and so that was like 2 lump sum payments. So in her case, she said she does not own those scans. So the company paid to scan her, made the dress forms of her body. So that's another scenario. And there was a contract and it was like a lump sum and this is how we pay you. So one person's royalties or like an annual payment, one person's just a flat fee. And then I spoke to another technical design director who works a lot in browseware, and she said they pretty much use like the Alvanon avatar, and they also use other avatars that are available, and then they still use their live model and they adjust the avatars and measurements to match their models. So there's a bunch of different ways to go about it, but my overall impression is that, you know, the industry is not quite, the modeling industry isn't quite where, you know, where technical is going, the technology is going, you know, and I know that's a big conversation, you know, those of us who know about like the actor strike that just happened, that had to do with AIs and the use of people's like, you know, image and such. So it's a whole new world, but people are still figuring it out. Okay, Kristen.
Will you tell us what the agency said about it? Because I thought that was a good thing.
Yes, okay. So the agency was saying that I think they misunderstood when I initially reached out, and they were saying Clo is more of a design tool and not so much used for technical design. And so we kind of all our little group, we were talking about it and just kind of like, well, you know, of course it's used in technical design. I mean, there are people who are just using it on the design front to get better prototypes, but it sounds like the agency doesn't realize the full ability of this program to go from start to finish.
Yeah, I know we're a few minutes over, but I think it's a worthwhile discussion to have really quickly. But I think a big part of it is that it's about that trust issue, where it's really hard for businesses to fully trust the system, and the program is new and it's fresh, and people are scared of what they don't know, and there's a scarcity mindset surrounding any kind of new technology because we're worried that our jobs are going to disappear. But we still need people to run this tool, we still need people to work on the tool, we still need the human element of checking in real form too. But I think at the end of the day, like, we need to put it into our process from start to finish in order for it to be a fully fledged tool that you can use all the way through. And we've been doing that for about a year with my design agency, where, you know, we see first protos, we call them number zero, proto number zero, because we're not actually seeing a physical garment, we're seeing it in Clo only. And then we make an edit before we ever cut the first sample, and we see the first proto with 2 rounds of edits essentially in it. The first one made, and then the second one, and then the third one is the real proto. So in an ideal world, we need to incorporate this through the whole system.
And what's amazing about that too, Kristen, is that like we've only been doing it for a year, right? Like we're still at the very beginning of it, and we have seen so many benefits, right? Just being able to like see your garment before you actually have to get it made. And then when you want to make changes to it, you can communicate those changes so effectively. Like, this is exactly what we want changed on the pattern. This is the results that we'll get in the 3D window.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have a Zoom fitting, and then we'll pull up the patterns and we'll look at the patterns while we're in the fitting, and we'll be like, oh, you know what? I actually see that right there on the pattern. It's there. It just was something that was kind of hiding and lurking, and we didn't trust it when we first saw it. But now we see it in a physical garment, and we have the ability to trust it because now we've seen it in an actual thing. And, you know, it's so much more real when you see like something translated in a physical garment.
I think we've also been using it as like fully as a design tool. Like, we no longer talk about the changes and then go back into a 2D sketch to make the changes back in 3D. We're fully committing ourselves to making those changes in Clo. So
yeah.
Oh, what if we kind of like added some style lines here? Or, you know, what if we merge these patterns to remove this certain seam? Or what if we, you know,
swap the materials, change it from
exactly.
lace to mesh, like all of those things, like we can do so instantly, and it's so gratifying to see it.
Exactly. Like, what if we want to what if we want to add a balloon edge there? Like, we have the exact lace at the exact scale and the exact colorway. It's really cool.
The best. Before we wrap up, I just want to remind you guys that this PDF of this slide will go out in an email format, so you'll have all the links. There are also some resources that have some discount codes in case you want to buy anything. Clo3d has a really great course. It's the one I took over summer, so I would highly recommend if you're interested in using it for intimates and you're not, you know, a super user yet. It's a really great course to get you really on the board with Clo and intimate apparel. And then the shortcuts for the keyboard and some discount codes for mine. And then we have the body scanning locations, the apps on one page, and then we put some of the avatar editing tools on that last page. So just so you know, this will be going out tomorrow at 1 p.m. So you can grab those links there in case you didn't have the time to copy them from the chat. Any other questions we can answer before we hop off? I feel like we answered pretty good in this chat. So I really appreciate how many people have came and stuck around and listened to us talk. It's really fun to use this tool. We love it. And we see so much potential for it in our industry. And we are very excited to have a, you know, rousing group that really is interested in this too. So thank you so much. Hope you guys have a great, really wonderful Friday the 13th weekend. Talk to you soon. See you next
Bye,
Friday.
everyone. Thanks for being here.
Bye.